Good afternoon and welcome to the February 19th regular meeting of council. The city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. We have the consent agenda up first, council. We have the minutes of the council meeting held February 3rd, 2025. Also the approval of the council meeting agenda. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendations? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any errors or omissions or further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. And for those in the public, Councillor Gaur is attending online. And welcome, Councillor Gaur. You hear us loud and clear? You're okay?
5 by 5. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I don't want you to touch your mic too. So we hear you as well. Thank you. We have the first report on the agenda is regarding the Emergency Program Coordinator. Is from the Emergency Program Coordinator for the 2025 UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Emergency Operations Center Equipment and Training Grant application. To seek council approval for the town of Qualicum Beach to apply on our behalf of the city of Parksville for regional grant funding for Emergency Operations Center training and equipment. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Gren, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion? I just wanted a quick comment about the importance of the collaborative effect that has occurred in between the town of Qualicum Beach and the city of Parksville regarding coordinating efforts in between the two EMOs. We're saving a considerable amount of money by combining our saving exercises that we do for the EMO, as well as we have identified the Qualicum Fire Department as a secondary liaison point, or what liaison is a muster point. Yeah, muster point anyways in the case of emergency. So it's just good planning on both sides of the river, I guess, over both sides of the French Creek. Not much of a river, but anyways, so I'm very pleased that they've collaborated and are making sure that we have lots of coverage in case of emergency. So any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Council, for the next report on the agenda, we have from the Director of Community Planning and Building for development permit application at 1116 Herringull Way to consider issuance of a development permit. That address looks familiar. Do we have any report today, Mr. Russell, or are we okay with what we have before us? Thank you. Council, as you know, this is for our operation chart. And so I'm sure you've read the background on it. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations as noted? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. We now have the next report on the agenda is from the Director of Community Planning and Park and Building for a development permit application at the Parksville Community Park, 193 Island Highway East, to consider issuance of development permit. And then for the members of the public, this is for the consideration of the moving of the Sandcastle sculpting area, moving it to a slightly different area in the community park. The details are in the package before us. Council, do I have a mover or second for the recommendation as noted? Moved by Councillor Beil, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion? Councillor Gaur, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you, I want to thank our staff for taking this on. I know they are quite, they have their plates full with all the work for this year. But I think the Beach Fest folks, as well as the public, is quite appreciative of them going the extra mile and taking this on this year. I just want some clarification from staff. Does it mean that the site will be ready this summer for the Beach Fest to go on at the new site?
I believe Mr. Russell may have the answer to that question. Councillor Gaur, I'll put it over to Mr. Russell, please.
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gaur, that is part of the reason why this has been brought to this early in the season, with the hopes that it'll be ready for the summer. And that's my understanding from operations.
Great. If I may follow up, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And at the same time, on from the Beach Fest folks, as well as other community members that I've spoken with, I've heard a lot of praises, especially for Mr. Graham Giddon, how for his professionalism and his hard work. So I wanted to give some kudos through this forum to Mr. Giddon for all the work on this, especially from the Beach Fest for his collaboration and work on this. I do, perhaps when our CAO is back, we can get more clarification. But you and I got an email from the Beach Fest folks about matching their funds to get this project going. So in terms of the financial impact, I don't know if this is the right time or perhaps in the next meeting, I would like to propose that we do a 50-50 cost share with Beach Fest. So this is, I think, the prudent thing to do for us financially, that we use the taxpayers' money as well as the society, if they're willing to match dollar amounts. So we go 50-50 partnership on this project with them.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Councillor Gaur. I hesitate to kind of go down this road at this point because the recommendations are in the package as presented by Mr. Russell, whereby I believe $100,000 was being supplied by the Community Works Fund already, so that finance is in place, and plus a contribution expected and promised by the Beach Fest Society for the total of $150,000. So we have the finances covered at this particular point. If, as you say, the Beach Fest want to sweeten the pot with their donation, they can always do that at a later date. But at the same time, we have to have the financing in place as we do, as per the recommendation this time.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may continue my debate here. The reason I say that, I think the $150,000 was kind of a ballpark, and I understand city wanted to give $100,000 upfront to make sure this project go through, which I and everybody on this council does want this to go forward. What I'm saying is Beach Fest sent us an email explaining that they are willing to match $100,000 that the city is putting forth. So when the cost maybe come down, I guess what I'm saying is, I know it's a grant that we're using it towards. If Beach Fest has those $100,000 and we can split the cost, I would rather have that money go towards the grant and use it for something else that we can perhaps use this.
I'm sure staff will take that into consideration when that amount of money is when the check is not just in the mail, but it's actually on our desk. Then we can make that decision that we need to use less money out of the grant. But I would say let's go with what we have in hand, and we can hopefully move forward to sweeten that pot later. Any other discussion? All those in favor? It carries unanimous. Thank you. We have one notice of motion on the agenda. We have Councillor Gaur regarding the designation of the Greenspace adjacent to Parksville Civic and Technology Center as Parkland. The following motion is on the agenda in lieu of notice, so council may vote on it today. So Councillor Gaur is here. I'll let him present his motion, and then we'll take it from there. And we'll, if it goes along, we'll look for a seconder for that motion. Go ahead, Councillor Gaur.
So, point of clarification, Mayor. So I am moving this. Do I have a seconder so we can? I can present the background at that time.
Yeah, I was going to ask for a backgrounder I was going to ask for a backgrounder before you got a seconder, but I see a seconder has already put up his hand, so it's moved by Councillor or seconded by Councillor Wood. So it's moved by yourself and seconded by Councillor Wood. So I'll give you first cut at discussion. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this green space that's being presented at this motion, I think we are all quite familiar with. It's just quite adjacent to where you folks are at this time, and between the seniors home at Stanford. This green space is actually kind of used as a park space by a lot of people. The reason I bring this is, I think I'm not going to go into details why we need green space, all the importance of nature and the green space that people need. But as we grow as a community, and especially the downtown core, we'll see more density. The need to have access for people to green spaces is very vital. And I know we have this parks fund where we're supposed to perhaps look at buying more land for green space, but we know with the cost of land going up, things are becoming more expensive. So the idea of us increasing our green space and more parkland is to actually, in my opinion, designate this green space that we already own as parkland. Especially in the downtown core, we already do have competing things that we are trying to match, whether it's for housing. I know there's a challenge with parking. Previously, we were looking at, previous council was looking at perhaps creating some parking there, but that issue has been looked after since we've located alternative site for parking. And these pressures will grow as we grow as a community. So to balance the need for quality of life, which a green space does provide, I think it's important that we preserve this piece of land for the current and the future residents of Parksville, and especially the downtown core to enjoy. In my opinion, since we own this land and we are maintaining it as a green space, the level of service increases will not be significant, in my opinion. This is what I got in my discussions with the CAO as well. But I have some questions. Perhaps I can ask for clarification from staff. If designating it as a parkland, does it include us having to provide additional services in that space, whether it's benches, garbage cans, or etc.? I don't know if Mr. Russell is able to answer those at this time.
Ms. Russell's in the room. You will answer your questions for you, Councillor Gaur. Go ahead, Ms. Russell.
Certainly, Mayor, if I may, through to Councillor Gaur. Staff don't anticipate any change in the service level. It's already maintained to a high standard, so that isn't expected to change.
So having said that, Mr. Mayor, I think I'll rest my case and let other councillors present their views on this. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that, Councillor Gaur. Yes, and I certainly don't disagree with you that perhaps the designation of certifying it as parks land for ad infinitum and so forth is a good idea at this particular point because it is already well used and well accepted by our community, and we've already performed a level of service on it. So Councillor Wood, you seconded it. You're next to the comments. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for Councillor Gaur bringing it forward. I think it's a great idea, possibly a bit just maybe a technicality, but I look forward to any feedback from staff and any speed bumps we might find along the way. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Gaur. This is very thoughtful, this green space, and we cannot just let it all go. And this is so special. I'm from the North Shore in Vancouver, and this is not comparable, but I used to feel when I go through Stanley Park and go over the bridge, I'd end up being in a peaceful place. It's changed a lot since I lived there, but the park is so special to the local people, and it's right in our backyard. So we must keep it and preserve it. Thank you very much. Thank you for the notice.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Go ahead, Councillor Beil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to add my thanks to Councillor Gaur for bringing this forward. I would certainly want to support this, and I think a really important point is that we do have increased densification in the downtown area. We have very close to this potential parkland. We have a number of apartment buildings, 4 stories, and we have others that are being built as we speak. And people need to have some green space, and even looking out at green space is very good for one's mental health. So I think it's a wonderful addition to the downtown area, and it's very central, which is wonderful. And at some point in the future, if there's actually a sign, then it will become even more obvious to people that it is a park when this all goes through. So thank you. I'd like to support this.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? And I'd like to say kudos to the previous council that ensured that it did remain a park when it was considered for a parking lot. And that was an intense council decision anyways that created the park in the first place and to continue to preserve it. So thank you to the past council as well. I would say if there's any further questions, I would ask all those in favor. Thank you. And those opposed? Thank you. Councillor Fraz is opposed, as noted. That carries. Thank you. That's coming up next. We had a notice of motion to be coming up this time by Councillor Beil. Councillor Beil has withdrawn that from the agenda anyways, and I'll just let Councillor Beil have a quick moment just to suggest that it was her choice to withdraw that anyways. And go ahead, Councillor Beil. A couple of details, great.
Thank you. And I almost forgot, and yet I was supposed to remind you that I wanted to speak. So thank you.
I'll remind you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'd just like to mention that I did have a notice of motion at the last meeting to request that we receive the agenda earlier than we do at present. I wanted to let people know that I had a very good conversation with our CAO regarding the topic and learn more about the challenges that can face for for staff. However, some suggestions came up in meeting with our CAO, and she has some ideas about how to get at least a rough draft, not with a lot of detail, but some information ahead of time to us, but that does not necessitate a bylaw procedural change, a change with a procedural bylaw. So that will happen. We haven't decided when this would happen, and but that is the upshot of that at this time. So that hopefully that will alleviate some of the concern that I felt, and I know that some other councillors have also felt.
And just to be clear, that is a rough draft to council. That's not to the public. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Beil. And then we have liaison reports. Councillor Beil, keep your microphone on.
Thank you very much. Yes, I had a lovely meeting with the Chamber of Commerce just recently, and they have a number of plans well underway for some well-loved events in the area, particularly the Summer by the Sea market, which will be taking place again in the summer months, and also planning some other events. They're also very happy to be officially looking after the visitor center, and that there has, as people here know, some adjustment to the times that they will be open. I don't have too much more to share at this time from them, but again, a really wonderful meeting with everyone, and they've got some great plans underway, both for their own members, but also thinking about the larger community. If I could carry on.
Absolutely.
I've also attended a meeting with ELCO, which is the Early Learning and Childcare Oceanside, earlier this month. And we hadn't met for quite a while, which is why I hadn't reported out on them. An ongoing issue of real concern, and probably not only in this community with regards to childcare, is the training and retention of qualified staff for childcare spaces. So that is an ongoing issue. And to that end, the ELCO group has actually got a small grant, and with that, we'll be hiring a short-term consultant to gather data on the current childcare landscape, including challenges, gaps, and opportunities, and looking at both staffing and workforce issues. So that project has started. And also, I think of interest is I asked about the $10 a day and as to whether or not any of the local or area childcare providers have received that. And there's no word on that at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Beil. Any other liaison reports, new business that any council member that was unable to get in time for the agenda? Go ahead. We just happen to have a couple of minutes left. Okay, seeing none. I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn, if I could at this point. Let's move by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beil. All those in favor? Thank you. Council. 20 minutes. Is that a record?